Good evening and welcome to the April 2nd meeting of the Falmouth Conservation Commission. This meeting is being held virtually via Zoom video conference and is also being broadcast by FCTV on cable channel 9. As this meeting is being recorded by Zoom and broadcast by FCTV, please be cognizant of what you say, how you say it, and what can be seen and heard in your background. We're missing one commissioner tonight, but we've got a quorum. We're moving forward. As a reminder, for commenting, I'll call on each of you in turn, and that all votes are done by roll call. So when I call your name, please state your name and your vote for the record, even if you've made the motion or the second. To our public attendees, excuse me. Where was I? Yeah. At any time during this meeting, you may enter any comments or questions via the chat function. At the appropriate time, they will be read into the record. If, as an attendee, you'd like to participate in a particular hearing, let us know via the chat function. Then, at the appropriate time, you will be promoted into the hearing as a participant. When you are selected, you must have your video enabled, be succinct, and respectful of others. Public comments will be limited to 3 minutes each. Regarding RDAs, under a request for determination of applicability, the applicant is asking the Commission to determine if the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and/or the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw apply to their proposed project. A negative determination is that the provisions of the Act and/or the bylaw do not apply. Therefore, the project may proceed as proposed. A positive determination means the provisions of the Act and/or the bylaw do in fact apply and/or may require some conditions. Therefore, the project would require a notice of intent application. So as an applicant, you kind of want to hear us say something negative. And for the benefit of anyone waiting for a particular hearing tonight, so that you're not waiting unnecessarily, the following hearings are expected to be continued. Number 10, Central Ave, and number 70, Kerry Lane. First up tonight is to vote minutes from our regulatory meetings. First one is for January 16, 2025. Anyone? Anyone at all?
I'm so moved to accept the minutes on January 16th, 2025.
Thank you.
Driscoll.
Bird second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to accept the minutes of January 16. Question or comments? We're voting to accept the minutes. Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney.
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin.
O'Brien, aye.
Ron.
Driscoll, aye.
Russ.
Robbins, aye.
It is unanimous. With this quorum, we have accepted the minutes of January 16, 2025. Next up are minutes of February 20, 2025, again from our regulatory meeting.
Move to accept the meetings of the regulatory meeting, the minutes of the regulatory meeting on February 20th. Driscoll.
Bird second.
Excellent. We have a motion and a second to accept the minutes of February 20. Questions or comments? We're voting. Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney.
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin.
O'Brien, aye.
Ron.
Driscoll, aye.
Russ.
Robbins, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted the minutes of February 20th. Next up are the minutes for March 20th, 2025. Again, the regulatory meeting. Anyone?
I'll move to accept the minutes of March 20th.
I'll second. Gladfelter.
All right. We have a motion and a second to accept the minutes of March 20th from the regulatory meeting. Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney.
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin.
O'Brien, aye.
Ron.
Abstain. Driscoll, abstain.
Russ.
Robbins, aye.
We have enough of a quorum. We have accepted the minutes of March 20th. Thank you to whoever transposed those. Kristen, if it was you, thank you. If not, you can take credit anyway. Next up is a request for continuance under notice of intent. Nicholas Polkronis, 10 Central Avenue, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to remove a patio, construct an addition, install a fence, and install plantings. Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant is requesting a continuance until April 30th.
Bird so move.
Gladfelter, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this until April 30th, you said?
April 30th, yes.
So I got that right. Okay. All right, questions or comments? We're voting on the continuance. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Ron,
Driscoll, aye.
Russ.
Robbins, aye.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until April 30. Next up is a request for a continuance to amend an existing order of conditions. First up, Donna Haber-Kornberg, trustee Donna Haber-Kornberg, 2021 Revocable Living Trust, 70 Kerry Lane, Falmouth, Mass. Request to amend the order of conditions for Mass DEP number 25-4742 to permit a fieldstone wall, ramps, and a relocated masonry wall after the fact. Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant's representative is requesting a continuance until May 14th.
Bird so move.
Driscoll, second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to continue this till May 14th. Questions or comments? We're voting on the continuance. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Ron,
Driscoll, aye.
Russ.
Robbins, aye.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until May 14th. Next up is a request for a continuance under an enforcement order. And I'm going to read two of them at the same time because we opened them simultaneously because they're adjacent properties. Patrick Burke, trustee, Church Street Trust, 158 Church Street, Falmouth, Mass. Unpermitted removal of vegetation within the buffer to a coastal bank. John Cook, trustee, John C. Cook, 2009 Trust, 170 Church Street, Falmouth, Mass. Unpermitted removal of vegetation within the buffer to a coastal bank. Jen.
I think Alyssa has that date. Alyssa, do you have that date? I'm sorry.
What?
Yes, the applicant, not the applicant, the homeowners representatives have requested a continuance until April 16th.
Bird so move.
Driscoll, second.
All right, and again, to be clear, we're voting on both of these. All right, questions or comments? We have a motion and a second to continue both of these until 4/16. We're voting. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Ron,
Driscoll, aye.
Russ.
Robbins, aye.
It is unanimous. We've continued this to 4/16. Next up, no more continuances. Request for determination of applicability. James O'Connor, 221 Sepoysett Road, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to vista prune according to FWR 10.1810B. Alyssa.
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. The resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird so move.
Driscoll, second.
We have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Questions or comments? We're voting. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Ron,
Driscoll, aye.
Russ.
Robbins, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, William David Lane Jr., 45 Davis Neck Road, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to reconstruct an existing deck and install 2 stone patios. Alyssa.
Staff recommends a -2 under the state and bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed, and this project solely takes place in an AE flood zone.
Bird so move.
Driscoll, second.
We have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Questions or comments? We're voting. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Ron,
Driscoll, aye.
Russ.
Robbins, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Northland Residential Corp., care of Jack Dolly, 809 Sandwich Road, Falmouth, Mass. To determine if this property is subject to jurisdiction under the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and or the Town of Falmouth Wetlands Protection Bylaw. Alyssa.
Staff recommends a -1 under the state and bylaw.
Bird so move.
Driscoll, second.
-1?
Yep.
Means it's not in jurisdiction.
Oh,
You knew that,
Thank
though.
you.
All right, questions or
It's
comments?
been a long time since I
Yeah.
heard it.
Yeah, it has. All right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Ron,
Driscoll, aye.
Russ.
Robbins, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Brian Storms, 32 Chappaquoit Road, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to remove existing hardscape and extend an existing driveway. Alyssa,
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so moved.
Driscoll, second.
all right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Questions or comments? We're voting. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Ron,
Driscoll, aye.
Russ.
Robbins, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Shay Coons, 127 Lakeshore Drive, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to vista prune according to FWR 10.18, 10B. Alyssa,
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so moved.
Driscoll, second.
all right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Questions or comments? We're voting. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Ron,
Driscoll, aye.
Russ.
Robbins, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Thank you for all the staff's efforts on these. Next up, our request for hearing under a notice of intent. All hearings of the Falmouth Conservation Commission are held simultaneously under the authorities of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw. Although a single decision of the commission is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. As a reminder, public commenting is limited to 3 minutes. So I encourage you to stay within the purview of this board, which are the rules and regulations of the Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw and how they pertain to a particular application. The chair reserves the right to stop any commenting that is disparaging or inconsequential to the hearing. First up, David Flaherty Environmental Services, 84 Old Dock Road, Falmouth, Mass. For after-the-fact permission for the installation of hardscape and for permission to install the associated mitigation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Excuse me.
Trying to get my video going, sorry.
Always fascinating that they'll install the violation, but they won't install the mitigation that goes with it. You'd think it would be all in one, but hey, what do I know?
Is that better?
Thank you, Mr. Flaherty. Mr.
Thank
Chairman,
you.
I've
Sorry.
promoted Mr. Flaherty up.
Sorry
Present
about
his
that.
project.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. David Flaherty for the applicant at 84 Old Dock Road. Yeah, I was brought into this project kind of late. I understand that they did some work. They installed a field stone / slate patio on the south side of the property, approximately 550 square feet. And it was brought to their attention. So we're presenting mitigation planting. You'll see that to the east side of the property. It was recommended to leave an additional pathway for potential Phragmites removal in the future. That would be covered under a separate filing. And also getting back to the fieldstone patio, they want to install a pergola over that, which I don't know if that falls under the definition of a structure, but it's I don't think it's going to be I don't think it's going to have footings. I think it's just going to be tied into the existing dwelling. But I requested that, you know, if there are any footings to be installed, they should be hand dug. So I believe at the time, we thought we showed all the resource areas and the setbacks, but I understand there may be some additional information that's necessary.
Yes.
Are you done with
We'll
your
go through that with
presentation?
you, Mr.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, Jen?
So yes, Mr. Chairman and the board, I have Mr. Faherty's plan up. These are the two patios right here. Can everybody see my little cursor moving around? These are the two patios that were installed. Flaherty Environmental came onto this project a little later. We had issued a cease and desist to Joyce Landscaping. We issued 2 cease and desists, I believe, for work on the property. It took them a while to get the plan, but we do have a plan. There are a few things in our staff report that we need to see just cleaned up or put on the plan. The correct buffers from the salt marsh are 25-foot offset from the V zone. There's a rinse station over on this side of the property now that we have to pick up, as well as a couple of utility pads. And we are going to have the plan amended to clip these patios back as they are moving closer into your zone A than allowed. The mitigation is right here. And then I believe, Mr. Flaherty, your path is going to be on the back side of the mitigation for the Phragmites work.
That's correct.
Okay. Is everybody all set with the plan?
Well, clarify what the application is. Are we applying for the Phragmites removal? Are we applying for the pergola installation?
They're doing after the fact. The application is for the after the fact installation of these paver patios. And to install the appropriate mitigation for those patios. One patio was enlarged, and then one patio I think was added.
As well as the installation of the pergola.
Oh yes, and the installation of the pergola.
And if you need more mitigation, we'll be glad to help, comply with that. We really want to work with the commission on this. And I know the owner is eager to get this resolved.
It's been a while. So yeah, this portion of this patio will probably need to be removed, as the couple of probably one row of these pavers on this edge here. And again, the mitigation is going over there, but there are some other elements that are missing from the plan that we've already reached out to Mr. Faraday, and we'll be working with him. I don't believe you've received a DEP number yet, sir.
No.
So we will need a continuance. I think you were CC'd on an email that state had reached out to us about getting the application. So we did send that over to DEP today.
Okay, thank you. So they'll get the wetlands forms then that I included in my packet.
Yeah, they'll get everything that you submitted
Okay.
to us. We've sent
Yeah.
it off to just for ease and
Yeah. I'm sorry that was omitted from their packet. Again, we want to move forward on this, so any way we can do that, I'll be happy to revise the plan and make sure that it's appropriate for what you would approve.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, we can't close the hearing without that DEP number.
Understood.
So
And the
looking
revised plan.
very busy on the 16th. So would you prefer the 23rd or the 30th?
Would the 30th be okay of April?
30th will be fine.
Okay, terrific. Well, thank you very much for your time, folks. I appreciate it.
Are we going to ask any questions?
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry.
Please stop talking over each other.
I'm sorry.
Call on you speak, not until. Thank you. All right. Jen, are you all set?
I'm all set, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Alyssa?
Nothing to add at this time. Thank you.
Commissioner comments, Betsy?
So Jen, there are other if you work with Mr. Flaherty, there are other resource areas that aren't marked, like the salt marsh and
Yeah.
land under ocean, land containing shellfish.
Yep.
Yeah.
We will relay that to Mr. Flaherty moving forward, Bets. It'll be on the plan next time.
Okay. That's all, Jamie.
All right, Courtney.
Is a permit going to be required for the pergola? It is, I would assume so.
A building permit?
Yeah, a building permit. Because I would assume it would be, and there would be likely a requirement for footings. And so we need that determined and the methodology for installing the footings and how deep. So that's all in the app, it's all covered here. Then there's no surprises.
All right.
Other than that, I have no other issues.
All right. And yes, I believe a building permit would be required. I do believe they would require footing, some form of method to tie it down.
Yeah, I would think so. I would think you'd want to do that anyway.
Kevin.
No further questions. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Ron.
And the footing shouldn't be any closer to any of the multiple resources that aren't on the plan.
Yeah.
Right. All right, Russ.
I'm good, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Nothing in the chat.
All right. So as I understand it, the applicant has requested a continuance until April 30th. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll be looking for a motion and a second to that effect.
Bird, so move.
Fiscal second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this until April 30th. Last call, questions or comments? We're voting. Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney.
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin.
O'Brien, aye.
Ron.
Fiscal aye.
Russ.
Robbins, aye.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until April 30th. Thank you, Mr. Flaherty.
Thank you very
Mr.
much for your
Flaherty,
time.
we'll be in touch with you so we can set up either a Zoom call or something with you to go over everything before you come back, okay?
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Have a good night, sir.
You too. Bye.
Next up, Brian Dale No, Revocable Living Trust, 14 Herringbrook Lane, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to install a coir fiber roll array. Jen.
Yep, I'm promoting Angela Tanner up from Crawford Land Management, and if I can find Tim Santos from Merrill, I'm going to grab Tim as well. There he is.
Good evening.
Mr. Santos, you're up, sir.
Good evening. For the record, Tim Santos from Merrill Engineers. Representing the applicant along with me this evening is Angela Tanner from Crawford Land Management. With your permission, I will share my screen.
Yes, sir.
Assuming everybody can see that.
Yes.
Property is located at 14 Herringbrook Lane, currently developed with an existing single-family home, deck, lawn, landscaped areas throughout the property. Resource areas on or within 100 feet of the property are land subject to coastal storm flowage, coastal banks to the north and south of the house, the inland bank associated with Fresh River, as well as the entire properties in riverfront area associated with the Fresh River as well. We are here before you tonight as the applicant is looking to install a fiber roll along the edge of Fresh River to help prevent further erosion from the eastern side of his property line. Along with that, we will be proposing some vegetated buffers along the edge of the roll as well as some restoration plantings in the northeast corner of the property. The construction access will be from the front of the property along the western side of the house and then kind of down to the bank. I'll turn it over to Angela in a second, but I just wanted to kind of touch base on the staff report. I believe there were 5 comments, 4 of them Angela will address. We believe these are all minor comments that we can revise the plan and submit it to staff within the next few days. One of the comments that I'll address is there's a set of stepping stones that run from the front door down to the side deck that I will add to the plan, as well as a set that run from the edge of the driveway down to the bluestone patio in the back. So I will get my plan updated to address that comment. And then I will now turn it over to Angela so she can review the fiber roll restoration plan and address any of the further comments you both have.
Hi, Angela Tanner from Crawford Land Management for the record. And if it's okay, I'm going to share my screen.
Yes, please.
Can you all see the plan?
You can see a stripe of it.
Type of it. Yeah.
Hmm.
There
you
it
go.
is.
There you go.
Okay, it's just a little slow, I think. So we are proposing, as Tim mentioned, this fiber roll installation, and then adjacent to that, we are proposing a mix of grasses and sedges, wildflowers to help stabilize that area with the fiber roll. There are some really scraggly shrubs left from what I understand is a previous mitigation planting. Those will need to be removed in order to install the fiber roll. There's not much left of them, but that's what we are proposing to plant in the northeast corner where these bare areas are, to fill that with shrubs. And then if there's access to the driveway behind the house back here, we may need to restore a little bit of that area if it's demolished with the construction work. That's what that hatch is. Staff comments noted that we did not hatch in this little area up in here, and that was an oversight on my part. So we will add that as the proposed restoration for during the construction work. Staff also noted that there was a discrepancy between the spacing. Over in this note, it says 4 feet on center, and in the replacement plant schedule, it says 5 to 6. With the types of plants that we have in the replacement plant schedule, I think the 4-foot spacing would be appropriate. So we can switch that, fix that on our updated plans. There was another staff comment asking if the huckleberry, which was one of the restoration plants proposed for this back area, would be huckleberry sod, which we did not intend to do sod. Our intent is to do a mix of different shrub plantings, so that would be more difficult with the sod. I know that the sod has been controversial on some of these projects. So, and then the other item I think that we were not aware of was that there was a previous mitigation, 6-foot wide mitigation shrub planting in this same area, which is now basically gone. It's in the water, I guess. Whatever's remaining of it is what we were proposing to replace up here. So I think that in order to replace some of those shrubs, if it's okay with the commission, we'd like to be able to work with staff to figure out where those would go. We already have basically this square footage up here is pretty much what's left over after you take out the 3-foot wide vegetation strip here. So I think our spacing is 5 feet, not the 3 feet that's required. So I think that we could very easily add some more shrubs to this and get it to a place that you're happy with. And Tim, am I missing anything?
Nope, I believe that covered the 5 comments.
Okay. So I'll stop sharing and you can answer any questions.
Thanks, Angela.
Oops,
Jen,
there we go.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Angela, the sod, we didn't want the sod. We haven't found, when sod was first, the huckleberry sod was first, I think it was first proposed to this board by Wilkinson. We were given, I don't think it was Crawford, I think it was Wilkinson. We were given like these really beautiful pictures on a site in Barnstable where it's thick and lush and everything. We're not having that same luck in Falmouth. We haven't seen one huckleberry sod project that actually is doing well. So we're happy to know that it's not sod, and that's why we asked the question. And second, we can work on with you on the siting of that required mitigation. We know that's a tiny backyard. There's not a lot of room back there. I don't need it stretched out along that fiber roll array, maybe just grouping them up in that corner like you were proposing, maybe expanding that, but we can work with you on that.
Okay, that would be great.
Get that to a place where we're happy with. Other than that, I don't have any other questions, Mr. Chairman.
all right. Alyssa,
No comments. Thank you.
all right. Commissioner comments and questions. Courtney,
No comments.
all right. Kevin,
No further comments. Let's put it that way.
all right. Ron,
And why 5 feet from the property edge? Why do we stop the koi roll 5 feet?
Oh,
Tim, do you have an answer for that? I sort of have one, but I don't know if it's as technical as yours.
I'm going to assume it has something to do with the design that Crawford Land Management came up with so that it doesn't cause erosion onto the budding property.
Yeah, that's my response. I don't know that I actually wasn't the one that came up with that number. I don't know if what the reasoning for the 5 feet was versus 3 feet versus 10 feet. I just know that usually we wouldn't go all the way to the property line.
Okay. Thank you. And one more, I know this, the Fresh River is intimately connected with the conduit of the culvert that ends into Vineyard Sound. And Jennifer, do you have any news on that from the other day?
The Fresh River culvert.
Yeah.
I don't have an answer for that yet.
Okay.
I know they're studying it. I know they're working on it.
Right.
Are you talking about just clearing it out, or what you talked about the other day?
Well, if they were going to replace it, if there's, I mean, the size of that
Yeah.
culvert is going to definitely affect the flow of the Fresh River from the Citrus Pond to Vineyard Sound, and definitely affect this property.
Oh, absolutely. There are plans to replace that culvert. They are currently being engineered so that we don't have to go in and dredge it all the time, that it will remain open and flowing. So you are correct. It would affect this property.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That's all.
all right. Russ,
no comments.
all right. Betsy,
Yeah, I want to follow on what Ron just said. So the homeowner was there when I came out for the site visit, and he was pointing out that when that culvert gets plugged up, his whole backyard floods. And then if it's a storm, sometimes you get salt water into there. So I'm just wondering with the planting to make sure that whatever species are there can deal with potentially saltwater
Brackish.
conditions.
Yeah, saltwater.
The plants are definitely selected for salt tolerance and flood tolerance. I
Okay.
can't guarantee that anything can survive prolonged salt tolerance. It's a matter of what time of year it happens and how long. And so we're trying to do the best we
Yep.
can to make sure there's a diversity of species so that we can give it its best shot.
Yeah, I think that's what happened with the initial buffer that was there. It got flooded and obviously got eroded, pulled back.
Mm-hmm.
Jen,
That's all I have.
sorry.
Yes, I can just tell the commission that both Fresh River and Salt River do tend to get plugged up. We see that in our summer storm season. Unfortunately, it is it's difficult to have those dredged out right away and let the water release back into the sound because of the presence of plovers. They won't let us put machines on the beach. They won't let us put the dredge material on the beach if the plovers are within 600, I think it's 600 feet or yards. It's some crazy amount, crazy distance. And that's what happened last summer when was it last summer or the summer before, when Salt Pond,
No, last summer.
Last summer.
that plugged up, and we couldn't get it dredged for weeks because those plovers were just dancing all around over there, and the state would not let us put a machine on the beach.
Can't we put a sign up to keep the plovers out?
I tried. I don't want them on Surf Drive any more than anybody else does. I'm probably the one person that does not want them on Surf Drive because of the fireworks. But they're there, and they seem to love it there. It's marginal habitat for them, but they just seem to like it there. I don't know why. So that's the problem we have with these rivers and the flooding of these properties is we're not allowed to dredge.
All right. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Nothing in the public chat comment.
I'll make a motion, close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Bird second.
All right, we have a motion and multiple seconds to close the hearing. Last call, questions or comments? All right, we're voting to close the hearing. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Ron?
Driscoll, aye.
Russ?
Robbins, aye.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Angela.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great weekend.
Good night, guys. Thank you.
All right, next up, Pamela Esposito and Eric Stein, 9 Bournes Pond Road, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to construct an attached garage and a shed, install a pool with a patio, and install mitigation plantings. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I've promoted Mike Borselli up to present his project.
Mr. Borselli, you're up, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. For the record, my name is Mike Borselli from Falmouth Engineering, and I represent the applicant, Pamela Esposito and Eric Stein. They own the property at 9 Bournes Pond Road. With your permission, I'd like to share my screen.
Yes, sir.
Sharing the site plan with you. The lot is known as Lot 38. It contains a total land area of 1.77 acres. There's an existing single-family dwelling located closer to Bournes Pond Road than the actual pond. The pond itself is far to the west of the developed portions of the lot. There's an existing licensed pier on the property. The wetland resources of note include land under the ocean, land containing shellfish. There's a significant salt marsh system just to the west and north of the site. There is a non-eroding coastal bank. We have shown the related no disturbance zone A's and outer buffer zone B's to those wetland resources. Now for the proposed project. I'll zoom in a little bit for you. The proposed project includes the addition of a 2-car garage that'll be connected to the left side of the house. A pervious patio, which is shown in a tan color, and a smaller 14 by 21 foot pool, which is labeled, and I'm circling with my mouse. We have met prior to the application with your staff. The applicant and I met during office hours and went through the plans. And I think what we've proposed is approvable. We took great steps to try to meet all of the requirements of your regulations at FWR 10.18, which is the redevelopment of a resource area buffer that was previously altered. The proposed pool and garage don't go closer to the wetland resources than the present primary structure. There is impervious surface calculations and mitigation planting for the increases in impervious surfaces, which are all located within the outer buffer zone B of a coastal bank. There's a very low profile 18 inches plus or minus landscape wall that borders the edges of the patio. There'd be a very slight grade change here that will allow for a level area around the pool. There's a small pool shed directly adjacent to the pool. Everything was designed in a way that it could fit not only our regulations, but regulations related to zoning setbacks and setbacks to the existing septic system. Some existing impervious surfaces are being removed to help compensate for some of the proposed, and the net result yielded a need for, and I'm going to zoom in on that view. The mitigation planting notes are here. The net result of all the calculations yielded a need for 1,982 square feet of mitigation, and we're proposing just over 2,200 square feet of mitigation. And that is shown in the shaded green areas. It's in areas that are currently developed with grass and lawn areas. Your mitigation regulations also require 1 tree for every 1,000 square feet of required mitigation. So we're proposing 2 eastern red cedars. So we think we designed this to meet your performance standards within your regulations. There was a staff report, and the staff comments I think are all minor and can be addressed easily. The first was that the actual landscape wall itself needs to be mitigated for. We can calculate the square footage of that. And since we have a surplus, I'm confident that we will still have more than enough mitigation planting to compensate for that. There was a question about the driveway to the garage. At one point, we contemplated just having grass. This is a seasonal house, and it wasn't going to be used heavily, but the owner has since decided that they would like to have a crushed stone driveway, which is of course pervious, and it's within an outer buffer zone B. So there's no need for mitigation planting, but it doesn't currently show on the plan. So I'm happy to draw in the edges of the driveway and submit a revised plan for that. Your staff pointed out that there's some evidence of some erosion right along the edges of the house where the downspouts are, and made a recommendation that there be dry wells, which is certainly a good recommendation, and we're more than happy to do that. There was a question about the location of these 2 trees. We showed them in a place that we thought made sense, but if there's a better place, we're happy to work with staff in citing these 2 required trees. And evidently there's a boat that washed ashore, and it is in the salt marsh. I haven't seen that. It must be a small skiff, I assume. And there was a comment about that boat having to be removed. I spoke to the owner today about it, and it's not their boat. It got blown in on a storm evidently, and they're making arrangements. They've been trying to make arrangements, I should say, to have it removed. They're looking for a contractor who can do that for them. So they understand it needs to be removed, and they're trying to get it removed. There's a kayak rack that is right on the path to the approach of the dock. That will be removed. It will no longer be needed because if the project's approved, the kayaks will be stored in the garage. And finally, evidently there's a rinse station and a generator that we didn't show on the plan that we're happy to add to the plan. And I believe we have sufficient excess mitigation planting to offset that, but we will provide the calculations and demonstrate that, or we will add more mitigation. So in summary, I believe that we designed the project in a way that it meets your regulations. We've met with your staff prior to the application in hopes that we could work out a lot of the issues in pre-hearing. And I believe that the staff report, for the most part, reflects that the comments are very minor in nature and can be addressed. And I'm hopeful we can close tonight, and I'm happy to take questions.
Thanks, Mike. Jen?
Mike, is that patio and pool, that's not raised, right? That's at pretty much at grade, correct?
Yes, it's within like 12 to 18 inches of grade. Yes, it just needs to be flattened out.
And the landscape wall is how big?
The width of it is about 8 inches. It's going to be made out of landscape blocks.
So
And it's
how
going to
tall
be,
would it be?
it's going to be about 18 inches tall.
The reason I ask is you boxed yourself in there. How are you, if you pull your plan back up, is there any sort of break in that wall where you can get your kayaks out of the garage and you don't have to walk along, I'm assuming, the north part of the property and bring your kayaks back in there? Because doesn't your landscape wall go all the way around your patio?
Well, they're going to have the way that they'll haul the kayaks around would be around this side of the house and down along the lawn along this edge, where they can also hand carry them out here and just slide them over the wall here and just step off the wall along the edge of the house. There's space between the house and the vegetation.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. You just mentioned it, and I was looking at the plan and like, but you're basically walling yourself in. And everybody goes with the path of least resistance, so I highly doubt we're going to be walking all the way around the house with these kayaks.
They
They're
can
just going
easily
to get launched over that wall.
they can easily step over the low
Okay,
the low
that's
landscape.
what I was getting at is
Yeah.
can they get over the wall?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. And I guess you addressed everything else. We'll need to calculate the mitigation, go out in the field and look if we can put those 2 trees where they planted some trees. I'm all set, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Alyssa?
No comments at this time. Thank you.
Alyssa's awfully quiet tonight. I don't know. All right. Commissioner comments or questions? Ron?
And Mike, wasn't there a generator right where you put in the new addition? Did I miss that when you used on your presentation?
Yeah, there was a comment about the generator. I'm gonna go out and check out where it is. If it is in conflict, it's gonna be shifted out of conflict with the addition. We're gonna show it on the plan, submit a revised plan.
And which way? Towards the resource or away from the resource?
I believe it would be along the side of the house, slightly closer, if I can share my screen again.
Sure.
It's likely to be either in this corner or shifted this way, right alongside the house right here.
Oof.
All right.
Okay.
Then I have to be mitigated for if it goes over there?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
And so we have adequate surplus mitigation that we're proposing, so I think we're okay with that.
Okay. And if you can do something about the trees hanging over the pier. I almost fell in the water when the tree hit me in the face.
Oh, wow. So you're giving us permission to do pruning?
I would, Mike, if my vote means anything, go ahead and trim that branch.
Noted for the record.
You're right.
That's all. Thank you.
You said that in public. Russ?
No comment.
All right. Betsy?
No comment.
All right. Courtney?
No comments.
All right. Kevin?
All set, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
All right. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Thing in the public chat, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Bird,
Just a
second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to close the hearing. Last call. Questions or comments? All right. We're voting to close the hearing. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
yeah. Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Ron,
Driscoll, aye.
Russ.
Robbins, aye.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Mr. Boselli.
Thank you.
All right. Next up, William and Elizabeth Scannell, 314 Quistit Avenue, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to construct a cabana and a porch, install a pool with a patio and a sports court, reconfigure the driveway, regrade the steep slope, and upgrade the existing sewage disposal system to Title V requirements. Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Mike Borselli from Falmouth Engineering is still with us to present this project, and he's joined by David Hawk from Hawk Designs, who is the landscape architect on this project.
Excellent. Mr. Boselli, it's been so long. Welcome back.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. For the record, again, Mike Borselli, Falmouth Engineering, along with Dave Hawk, representing the applicant, William and Elizabeth Scannell. Beth Scannell is in the audience, very interested in following the proceedings. And if there's any specific questions or comments that neither Dave or I can ask, she may be able to help. We're also joined tonight by Kara Meneses, who is from Archright, the general contractor. If you've been to the site, you've seen them. There's other projects underway that have been before you on previous hearings, including restoration, renovation of the carriage house, installation of a new water main, and some minor renovations on the outside of the main house. There's also construction related to the new septic system that was actually approved by an RDA at a previous hearing. The leaching system for that new septic system is being constructed right when you turn in off Quistit Avenue, and I'll point to that in a minute. What I'd like to do, if that's okay with you, is share my screen and go through a few exhibits and then show the plans.
Yes, sir.
I wanted to start with an aerial photo of the site. You're familiar with the property because you did review this under an RDA for the carriage house and, as I mentioned, some minor renovations to the main house. The Scannells have a history with Falmouth. The family is in Falmouth. I know at least that Beth has been coming to Falmouth since the mid-60s. They were married in Falmouth. They acquired the property with the intention of converting it from what it used to be, which was the National Academy of Sciences, back to its original purpose at the turn of the 20th century, which was a residence. There's currently currently underway inside the house, extensive interior renovations and restoration that are being done to bring the property and the inside back to what it was back in its heyday. I zoomed in on the aerial photo just to give you a sense of scope. I'm circling where the carriage house is that's under renovation and almost complete. There's a driveway coming off of Quistit Avenue that meanders through the site. It's a circular driveway that loops around. There's a choke point here that's Jennifer's very familiar with because she had to drive around it and was a little nervous because there's a drop-off cliff here. But the driveway is circular and paved, and it loops around, and you then find your way back after you go around the site. There's a very large crushed stone parking lot, which was parking for all of the functions and the operations when it was the National Academy of Sciences. The dock that you recently approved to be reconstructed is shown here. So the property is a peninsula on Quistit Harbor. And this is an overview of the property for reference, again, showing the house, the carriage house. And I'm showing this to give you an understanding of where the leaching system for the new septic system is going that you did approve. The current system is located close by to the house. It's within 100 feet of salt marsh, coastal banks. It's designed for functions. It's actually designed to be a 60-seat restaurant capacity. It's substandard in accordance with current Title V regulations. We met with Jennifer early on in the process when we were designing the site, David and I, and talked about things. And one of the things that was highly recommended is that we find a new home for that leaching system that would serve the house. So if you've been to the site and saw our excavation by the road, that's the leaching system. It's being pulled back entirely outside jurisdiction, hundreds of feet beyond jurisdiction. And that's going to service the carriage house and the main house. When the main house is finished, the tanks and a pump chamber will be installed, which you've already reviewed and approved under an RDA, and will pump the wastewater up to the new leaching field. Now I'm going to go through the existing conditions. Wetland resources of note include, of course, Quistit Harbor, which is bordering the peninsula on 3 sides, has land under the ocean, land containing shellfish. There's a salt marsh band on the southwest side here. We've shown the 100-foot no disturbance zone from that. A significant portion of the paved driveway in the crushed stone parking area are within that 100-foot no disturbance zone from salt marsh. If you make reference to the northern part of the site, Quistit Harbor again surrounds it. On the north and west side is a moderately steep to steep coastal bank, and it wraps around. It's vegetated. The top of bank is shown on the plan. There's also a salt marsh system to the northeast side of the property, and we're showing the no disturbance zone A's from the salt marsh. We're showing actually 100-foot no disturbance zones from the coastal bank as well, and that is because this entire portion of Quistit, not only this property, but all of this portion of Quistit for some reason is all considered priority habitat. So we filed an application with Natural Heritage. We did get a response back from Natural Heritage that this was not, this site was fully developed and wouldn't result in a prohibitive take. And they actually made the statement in their letter that the proposed work will not adversely affect the actual resource habitat of any state protected species. But that being said, your regulation says if you're in priority habitat that the no disturbance zone A's are 100. We really can't get more than 100 feet from any wetland resource just because of the shape of the peninsula, the top of the coastal bank and the salt marsh. In addition to those wetland resources, there's a secondary coastal bank which creates the large basin where the gravel parking lot is. between the waters of Quistit Harbor to the south and the main house. And then also the driveway basically borders the edges of what we've grown to call the bowl or the basin inside the site. If you've been there, you experienced or saw the relatively moderately steep slopes and a large 8-foot tall granite wall that create this lower area that we all believe was man-made, created by excavation and grading back in the day when the site was developed. When the site was originally developed and they built the house, I'm going to share with you this photo that shows the house in this large granite stone wall that's still on the site, and that moderately steep slope, and you can see the driveway circle around and it disappears, but it loops back around and up as I showed you on the plan. But this whole area was altered at a time when the house was built so that the family could have outside recreational areas and gardens. This wall was constructed, and below that wall are some of those amenities. And we were able to obtain this other historical photo, believe it or not, that shows the lower area. This is taken from the main house looking down at what is now a gravel parking lot. The driveway is here. For reference, off the dock is over here, and this driveway loops back up and back to the carriage house. But this whole area was altered. There's a lawn tennis court you can see. There's this very ornate formal garden. And the whole area was developed for the recreational family purposes back at the time. You can see two other houses in the background, those houses at the time. This was taken, I think, in 1906.
Wow.
So that all of that activity is down where I'm circling here. So the proposed project, there's a few things that were important to the Scannells. First of all, the National Academy of Sciences, when they occupied and used the property, they didn't care so much about some of these amenities, of course, like we're proposing a pool and a cabana, and we're proposing a sports court. Well, the sports court is ironically in the same place where you saw that photo with the lawn tennis court. And the formal gardens were adjacent to that tennis court over here. The way that the driveway is designed, there's no parking proximate to the house. You can't park a car, walk into the house with groceries, or there's no guest parking nearby close to the house where you'd want it for convenience. So one of the main elements of this design is to change the driveway system so it does not loop around anymore, but the section that was the most hazardous and unsafe is being eliminated. And instead, when you come to the property, you come in and go left, and you'd go up to a circular driveway that would have parking. And the circular driveway allows for cars to park on the side as well. So there's also this side parking area for cars to park as well. So that was a big element of the design that was important to converting this back to a residence. And the other two, of course, are the recreational uses of the sports court and the pool and the cabana that's associated with both the sports court and the pool. All of these site changes to bring it back to a residence require us to do some alteration of that moderately steep secondary coastal bank. And what we're proposing to do is regrade and terrace that so that the main house is at upper level, and the site terraces down to the pool cabana level, and then it terraces down again to the sports court. The circular driveway requires some regrading filling off the side because it would be hanging off that cliff. For reference, that granite wall that I showed in the photos is highlighted here where the red line work is. So that circular parking and driveway will straddle what is currently that wall, and this slope will be regraded much more gently than the current slope is. For further reference, this red line represents the current edge of the pavement for the driveway. These areas that are paved are going to be, the pavement will be removed, and there's an opportunity to do planting there, and this will be pulled back. There's another location here. If you make reference to the red line, double red line, that's where the current driveway is. It's going to be reconfigured to loop in over here. So this is all pavement and it'll be removed, and this will no longer be impervious surface. The entire lower gravel parking area, which we've shown with this dashed red line, and you saw in the aerial photo, will be eliminated, and that's going to be grass areas back to the way it used to be back in the day, with a different type of sports court. It's an all-purpose sports court, and then some outside grass areas as well. This is all designed as well to be the low point on the site. All of this area will, it pitches to this. The driveway will remain here, and it's higher by about 18 inches than this grass area. So all of the surface water is collected here or within dry wells as for the cabana roof, as we've shown on the site. Because we are doing work, while it's a secondary coastal bank, it's still a coastal bank. I had to provide in my narrative some arguments or descriptions of the work to demonstrate how this coastal bank is a secondary coastal bank, and we've overcome the presumptions of significance for what the coastal bank's function is. And I'm not going to bore you with reading that verbatim, but I have made the same arguments before. And basically, this coastal bank was created by activities of man, reshaping, and it meets the definition. It doesn't function as the coastal bank that surrounds the property on the outside. It's completely altered. It has a parking lot at the base of it. It has a driveway and a wall running on it. So its function as a coastal bank, it's not a sediment source. It doesn't erode. It doesn't provide beach nourishment to downdrift beaches. Its only function is to provide storm damage prevention and flood control. And it does that by virtue of being a vertical buffer in a flood zone. So it's a mass that prevents floodwaters from going any further. So the alterations we're proposing are going to continue to do the same function. In fact, we believe that the regrading is a benefit because the more steep slopes, which have higher potential for hurricane wave impacts, are being softened and regraded in a way that they're not as steep. In addition, there's proposal for vegetation in a lot of the areas surrounding all of the regraded areas. It'll be stabilized with either vegetation or grass, or lawn areas that would be in accordance with Falmouth friendly lawns and your requirements for lawn areas. So it'll continue after this project, if it's approved, is developed, to function as it functions today, which is a vertical buffer to provide storm damage prevention and flood control. I can also point out, just for reference, where we're proposing the tanks that are part of the septic system that I showed you, that's up further away up by the carriage house. Here's where the tanks are to be located. We've been to the Board of Health. They've reviewed and approved this project. We're required to apply for all obtainable permits. There is a requirement to go to the Board of Appeals, and Kevin Clower from Amit Clower Law Firm has applied to the Board of Appeals for permission to allow what is called an accessory structure. In this case, the cabana in the pool in the sports court are considered accessory structures. And ironically, we're going to the Board of Appeals because you need to go to the Board of Appeals if those structures are in a front yard. Even though the front yard is probably 600 feet away, the front yard is up here. We've got the carriage house here, and the pool, cabana, and sports court are located here. We're still in a front yard because we're in front of the main house. That's why we're going to the Board of Appeals. But that hearing, I think, is on May 13th, if I recall, from Kevin, and it has been, the application was filed. I'm going to just tell you that we met not only with Jen pre-filing. Dave Hawk and I met on 2 occasions with Jen and conservation staff pre-filing, and then as recently as last Friday, we met with Jen, Alyssa, and Fallon and went through the application and the plans in detail in hopes of getting a little bit of a preview on what the comments or questions or concerns might be. And we were pleasantly surprised that there weren't any real significant issues or concerns. And the staff report reflects that. There is one minor item that we need to take a look at, but I think it's an administrative thing, and that is on the very end of the house, there's a proposal on this peninsula, which is currently a grass overlook area, to propose a fire pit and a patio and sitting area adjacent to the fire pit. Now, we know the regulation says you can't go closer with any of these elements to any resource area than the closest point of the present primary structure. And we thought that we had designed this in a way that it does, because our interpretation was that this knee wall here with steps was part of the present primary structure, and that is closer to the top of the bank than we were proposing this fire pit to be. But staff doesn't agree that that's part of the present primary structure. So there are other places that are close, but a little bit further away. So we might need to adjust this slightly to conform. I think it's important to point out some of the big improvements. I think the biggest one, of course, is the septic system relocation out of jurisdiction, combined with the fact that the uses and the estimated daily flow potential on this use are being reduced substantially. But if you look at the impervious surface notes and calculations, we're actually reducing the overall impervious surfaces by just under 6,000 square feet on this site from what exists today. So that is mainly due to a significant removal of paved driveway and removal of this entire gravel parking lot, which is considered impervious because we're in an A zone, and it's just completely void of any vegetation whatsoever. So all of the net result, even with these proposed additional impervious surfaces, is a net reduction of just under 6,000 square feet. And we believe that it's actually a benefit to regrade this secondary coastal bank with less severe slopes because it'll aid in the storm damage prevention and flood control. With that, I'm going to unshare and I'm going to turn it over to Dave Hawk to talk about the landscape. And then we're both here for questions.
Thanks, Mike. Mr. Hawk, you're up, sir. Mr. Hawk, are you muted?
You must be muted.
My apologies. For the record, Dave Hawk Design. And we're excited about it. It's a beautiful site. And we're excited with working with Mike and particularly the clients. They're wonderful clients to work with. And let's face it, it's just a beautiful site. The one thing that also needs to be said is, this is going back to a residence. So the use of the property will diminish quite a bit as it transitions back into a residential property. Mike talked about the road layout, et cetera, and pulling things back from the salt marsh and coastal bank, et cetera. That driveway also, as we go into areas along here, is only 11 feet wide. So, it's 25 or it's 18 feet wide right now as it goes in there. So not only is that driveway, being pulled in, but it's also narrower. And that was kind of our goal, is to get this back to a residential proportion. And briefly, Mike talked about, bringing the slopes to where they were in a former era per se. The other thing was, if you look at this, our goal was to remove walls. We've got 20 feet of grade change in there. And really the tallest wall we have, this is a vanishing edge pool, is a 4-foot wall that goes along the pool edge. All of these walls in here, they're all seating walls, very, very small. And you can see that there's just not a lot of walls. We're letting the pool be the wall here and also the cabana itself to do that. And that's great for the wildlife because you can see with the slopes and that, it certainly helps any wildlife migration through the site. That was a big objective. Obviously, the slopes are improved, where you see these grades getting tighter, that's a 3-to-1 slope, but we're 6-to-1 in some of these areas. So as Mike said, we really try to make those more gradual. As far as trees, we've got some existing trees on the property. We tried to make sure that we were preserving all those trees. There's not a whole lot of them. There's some cedars over here. There's some trees along the lower area here. So those are all preserved. We removed 3 trees, 2 of which are in that big slope in this area where the wall exists. And there's a small 8-inch tree that was probably planted, a few years ago. And that would also be removed, which is right here in the circular area. So Mike spoke to the drainage. Obviously, we've got a low point down in here somewhere. And really, one of the big concepts that we tried to do, you can see that you've got the activity area with the swimming pool all concentrated in one spot. That was on purpose. Instead of spreading these around the site and having different areas around the site, we felt that it'd be better to push all that activity to the center of the site and away from our jurisdictional lines so that was all concentrated in one area. And what that does is that opens up the rest of the site. And again, this is just residential use that we're talking in there. So that's kind of the concept behind that. And we also wanted to make sure that we pointed out plant beds, what would be proposed plant beds. As Mike brought up, we do have a terrace up here with a fire pit. The areas indicated in the square hatching in here and here, and the area over by this along expansion of that buffer. That would all be, in our minds, native vegetation, herbaceous perennials and grasses. And what we're looking to do is just around the foundation of the mansion itself and also around the pool area and sport court in these areas would be a predominance of non-invasive, non-native ornamental plantings. And that would have obviously some natives mixed in there too, because our goal there is to make sure that what we put in the ground survives and does well. So any other areas away from that becomes all our native planting areas in spaces like this. And overall, that came up to 3,413 square feet of native planting areas in there. So really, we tried to make this a win-win. We tried to work the driveways. We tried to think about, stormwater runoff. We've got lawn areas and subtle slopes that really stabilize that ground plane. We've located amenity areas to the center of the site. We've gotten rid of the driveway that nobody wants to drive on. And I think that's probably a good thing, because if you bat your eye, you could take a 20-foot plunge. But it certainly does seem to suit the residential aspect more. And at the same point, to Mike's point, all this is paved right now, right up next to the coastal bank. So it does shift things away a little bit in that fashion. So we think this is a real win-win situation for not only the clients and the Conservation Commission, but also the property itself to really bring out to do justice to a beautiful piece of land. And that's all I have to say, and we'll entertain any questions.
If you would stop sharing, sir,
I sure will.
for now. Jen,
Yes, Mr. Chairman, not a whole lot of comments on this project. The board does need to determine whether or not you agree with Mr. Borselli's argument for the secondary coastal bank. Keep in mind this, as Mike demonstrated, this site has been altered, for well over 100 years. It's just been completely developed, redeveloped again. So the board just needs to determine whether or not you agree with that argument. Really the only issue the staff found was Mike's closest point. We don't believe it should be that wall. That wall is more like a little retaining wall for that back area. And we do think the closest point should be either a corner of the house or the deck, but we can work with Mike to fix that.
Okay.
And that's really all I have. They're protecting the trees. It's a big gravel parking lot right now. It's just going to be a lot of fill. Depending on the dump trucks or the machinery being used, I calculated, I think 350 to 500 truckloads of fill being brought into the site. So it's substantial, but again, the site has been altered repeatedly over the last 100 years plus. That's all I have.
all right. Alyssa,
Nothing to add. Thank you.
all right. Mike, do you have cut fill calcs?
We actually, the general contractor, Arkwright, had their site contractor, the estimated volume of fill is 7,500 cubic yards by their software.
Yep. Wow. Beautiful property. That's a great plan. I mean, that'd be amazing. All right, Commissioner comments and questions. Russ, we're going to start with you.
I'm good, Mr. Chairman. I think staff can handle that issue with the fire pit area.
Yeah.
It's going to be a beautiful project, and quite a lot of improvements there.
Yeah.
I'm good with it.
Yep.
Excellent. Betsy.
I'm good with it too. And it's a beautiful site. and I'm looking forward to seeing it when it's done.
Courtney,
Just did some quick calculations. There'll be 375 10-wheeler loads of fill brought in there. That's a lot of fill. So I think this is well thought out. And I commend everybody from the builder to the designers on working with the site. Just a question of clarification. The guest house will be tied into the existing septic. So you don't show how that's tied in on the drawing. Maybe you could bring it up, Mike, and just describe how the connection points work. That's the
Yes.
first part. And the second part was, in my tour today, I asked about whether or not this was going to be a denitrification system, and the general contractor on the job, the site super, said, well, they're going to allow for it. So I just wanted to verify that that was the case. And if so, where is the allowance?
I can answer those questions.
I figured.
excellent.
If I could share my screen.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So this is that overview plan. The carriage house, there's going to be a shared leaching system that's
Right.
located. You've drove by it. It's underway. In fact, it's been inspected by us and the health department, and it's all installed. There's a tank that services the carriage house, which is installed here. So that runs via pipe to a distribution box on this side of the leaching field. There's also a distribution box on this side that's installed, and there's a pipe that's installed and stubbed out here. This system, which is approved by the Board of Health, is the tankage for the main house.
Yeah.
And there's a pump chamber for the main house that would pump the effluent up along the edge of the driveway to that distribution box. Both systems have been approved for IAs. We're waiting, and they're accounted for IAs. We're waiting for the town's plan to be developed on our watershed planning. So the requirements are to show that you can retrofit it, and those red boxes are the retrofitted. Those would be the tanks that would be plugged in. And there's one for the carriage house as well. You can see it if you look closely. This red box is where that would be.
Okay.
So we've accounted for those to be accommodated both horizontally and in elevation wise, because we have to make sure the pipes allow for gravity flow, except of course to pump up here. I haven't figured out how to make water flow uphill without a pump yet.
Yeah. So you'll have a what, 2-inch force main from?
Yes.
Okay. And then what about from the guest house? Is that a force main too? Is that?
No, that's gravity.
So that'll be a 4-inch line.
Yes.
Gotcha. And you can still do an IA in that situation.
Yes.
Okay.
It's a tank, a treatment tank. Yes.
Okay. And then I think other than that, I think you pretty well covered it. I mean, it's a complex project.
Yeah.
But those are the kind that are fun to work on. But, good job.
Thank you.
All right. Kevin.
God, I couldn't think of anything else to ask. Thank you.
Ron.
I'm all set. Thank you. That's a great project, Mike. Long presentation, but very informative. Thanks.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thanks. I tried not to be long-winded.
A lot of information.
We had
there.
no choice with a project like that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, that was great. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Nothing in the public chat, Mr. Chairman.
I'll make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Just a
Bird,
second.
All right. We have a motion and competition for the second. Last call, questions or comments for voting to close the hearing.
I have a question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The foreman on the site told me that a car fell off that. That wasn't you, Jen, was it? If it were you, I think we would have heard that story.
I'd still like an answer.
Probably still be there. All right.
Gladfelter, aye. Did you call on me for a vote?
Well, for your question, comment, put your vote, yes. Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Ron,
Driscoll, aye.
Russ.
Robbins, aye.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Mr. Borselli, Mr. Hawes.
Thank you,
Thank you.
and have a good evening.
Good night. Nice presentation,
Good night.
both of you.
Thank you.
One of those really good feel good projects where it's going from, not that the National Academy of Science was bad, but going from a commercial type use to, to the days of yore.
Yeah, if only I could afford it.
Yeah. Next up, John R. Callahan, trustee, Ardmore by the Sea Nominee Trust, 0 Brockton Street. Map and parcel ID is 46A. 07-000-042, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to remove a shed and to construct a single-family dwelling. Jen.
Sorry, I was muted. This was a late continuance today. The applicant is requesting a continuance until April 23rd.
Bird so move. And the reason,
Just a second.
They need to, the submitted architectural is a bit late, so we just want the opportunity to go over them, and the salt marsh line was not staked, so the site is actually currently being mowed, so we would like this salt marsh area to be staked off. It's not very apparent.
All right. All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this hearing until 4:23. Questions or comments? Why is Jake here?
Oh, because he's coming up, so I just moved him in a little early. Sorry about that, Mr. Chairman.
All right, we're voting on the continuance. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Ron,
Driscoll, aye.
Russ.
Robbins, aye.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until 4:23. Next up, our continued request for hearing under a notice of intent. The first one had been previously continued. It brings us to Ronaldo Andrade, 0 Central Avenue. Map and parcel ID is 32-04-004-002, East Falmouth, Mass. For permission to construct a single-family dwelling and install a Title V sewage disposal system on an undeveloped lot. Jen.
Yes, Jake is here from Cape and Islands Engineering to present the project. Good evening, Jake.
Good evening, all. My name is Jake Fricke. For the record, I'm a professional land surveyor with Cape and Islands Engineering, representing Ronaldo Andrade for this project. And with your permission, Commissioner, I would like to share my screen.
Yes, sir.
Okay, can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, so a revised plan was submitted last week as a result of some conversations with Conservation after our continuance on March 11th. And this plan, as we have discussed, is a residential development with a Title V system. That Title V system has been improved to be an IA system. A swimming pool is here on the southerly side, and a row of privacy screening planting along this property line to protect everyone's view from each other. There's another house and patio that's quite close here. The deck and porch, which was much discussed with conservation, has been removed and has been replaced with a set of steps here and here. At the closest point, these steps are now 13 feet from the limit of work and 14 feet from the FWR A zone. We did add a dry well for the swimming pool down here in the corner, and a drainage system in the driveway here has been redesigned to move it back from the limit of work and by our engineering team, and we can confirm that this will handle the runoff from a 25-year storm. As we've sort of previously discussed, the existing vehicle track that runs across the lot here predates the Wetland Protection Act as well as local bylaws, and is, in our opinion, a grandfathered use. Town of Falmouth aerial imagery taken in 1960 clearly shows this vehicle track and turnaround was well defined at that point. Unfortunately, earlier images are not available to confirm when the track first appeared. I'll quickly show you an image of the site with this aerial image underlaid here. And as you can see, the vehicle track here is an incredibly solid coincidence with the edge of the path as located today. Finally, a letter was submitted which goes through the state and local performance standards for coastal banks. Our position is that the proposed driveway will not have a negative impact on the function of this coastal bank here, and it will not be more detrimental to the long-term health than the existing vehicle track, and it meets the local and state performance standards. We've worked closely with staff and addressed all of their comments, and we understand that at this point, it is really up to the commission to determine if the driveway can be permitted as a relocation of this existing grandfathered use. At this point, I will stop sharing my screen and answer any questions.
Thanks, Jake. Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Jake, thank you for making those changes. I'm having some concerns about the practical use of the property where the house is located. I mean, you are right up against that zone A buffer. There's literally no outdoor space besides that small patio around the pool. So it's very limited in any sort of outdoor space. And the second concern is the driveway over that coastal bank. This board has never it has permitted driveways over coastal banks when they've pre-existing, like we're calling that cart path, but to cut a new driveway in, I do have some concerns with. So the board's going to have to determine whether or not you'll allow that new driveway to be cut up and over that coastal bank, because it goes down and then it comes up. There is other room on the property to site a house. The goal is to, I'm assuming, subdivide the property, which is why we are shoehorning this house like right in that area. It does not allow for a lot of breathing room on that house, and I just have concerns with it. That's all. I mean, where the house is sited, yes, it meets your regulations. But
yeah,
it checks the boxes, but in reality, is it a livable property when you can't touch the trees in that no disturbance zone A? And again, the driveway. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Alyssa.
Nothing to add. Thank you.
Okay, I don't know who to direct this to. I just want clarification that this originally came to us as a divided piece, and then it was, for lack of a better term, undivided. Where do we stand right now? Because it made a difference whether that track was on, which property it was on.
Right now it is one parcel, but I do believe the end goal would be to subdivide.
So that would put the existing driveway track on a separate property.
Depends how they subdivide it.
Okay.
But yes, it did appear that way in the previous play.
Yeah, because we just have concerns about whether the mitigation is going to survive right on a separate property,
Yeah.
or how that would get treated. Okay.
Correct.
Thank you for that clarification. All right, commissioner comments and questions. And for the record, Alyssa, Betsy's not on this forum. Okay. Commissioner comments and questions. Courtney.
In an ideal world, if there were no other motivations than to build this house, you wouldn't locate it there.
Yep.
And I would agree with that. In a perfect world, I wouldn't locate it there. For a lot of the reasons that Jennifer has mentioned, the practical thing is there's just no room to move around and live out there. And so I fear that it's a violation waiting to happen as a result, because people will want to improve on that property. The other issue is that the driveway, no matter how well you have designed it, and I have concerns that your overflow system is only a 25-year storm. Given climate change and everything else, that thing should be designed for at least a 100-year storm. And if it's not properly maintained, it's going to get clogged up and then fail. And you're crossing a coastal bank. Now, you could argue that the existing driveway crosses a coastal bank, but you could make an argument, I would if I were you, that that's grandfathered. Well, if it's grandfathered, then you have to make use of it, which means that your access to that house has to go over that driveway, not a brand new cut.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I'm having a lot of issues. Now, I understand that you want to subdivide the property. But I understand, as my goal as a commissioner is to make sure that what we approve is environmentally appropriate and meets the regulations all the way through. That's our quandary. That's our priority. That has to come first in our decision. And then it's up to you. If we decide, for example, it ain't going to work there, then it's up to you to figure out how you want to re-subdivide to meet, you know, meet our concerns and the goals of the owner to subdivide it and maximize its value. So, you know, it's not an easy thing, but personally, I'm not in a mood to approve this project as it's designed. That's all I have to say.
All right. Kevin.
I'm in a quandary as to how I vote. I'm a little nervous about it, quite frankly. But I'll vote. When we vote, I'll vote.
Okay. Ron.
No, I'm all set, thanks. I sort of agree with Courtney. It's a tough vote. It's a tough vote.
Yeah.
Thanks.
All right, Russ.
I've got to agree with Courtney too. He framed it properly the way I feel. Grandfathered, yeah, I agree with Court.
All right, Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
My apologies. Nothing in the public chat, Mr. Chairman.
All right, what are you thinking, folks?
I'll make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Driscoll second.
Robin.
All right, we have a motion and a second to close the hearing. Last call. Questions or comments? We're voting to close the hearing. Courtney.
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin.
O'Brien, aye.
Ron.
Driscoll, aye.
Russ.
Robbins, aye.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Jake.
You're welcome.
All right. Next up are requests to amend an existing order of conditions. First up, Elizabeth Barry, trustee, Elizabeth Barry Family Trust, 111 Lucerne Avenue, Falmouth, Mass. Request to amend the order of conditions for Mass DEP number 25-4874 to reduce the amount of previously approved hardscape. That must be spelled wrong. Reduce. All right, Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I've promoted Raul from Cape and Islands up to present his project. Good evening, Raul.
Good evening.
Mr. Lizardi, you're up, sir.
For the record, Raul Lizardi from Cape and Islands Engineering, representing the applicant for this amended order of condition application for the project at 111 Lucerne Ave in Falmouth. With your permission, I would like to share my screen.
Yes, sir.
So as noted earlier, this is to amend an order of condition that was issued in October of 2023, about a year and a half ago. The applicant filed a notice of intent and obtained an order of condition for an after-the-fact construction of patios and missing mitigation planting that were required for that project. The property is on the shores, the western shores of Little Pond. This is the USGS map that shows the location of that property. And this was the site plan that was filed for this amendment request. Now I'm going to go to a second plan view that compares what was approved a year and a half to what is being proposed today. So on the left side of this view, we have the plan that was approved for the after-the-fact patios. And on the right side, we have what is being proposed today. 2 years ago, the homeowners installed a patio at this location, at this location, and at this location without permits. The only permit that they had at the time was under an RDA that a determination was issued to approve this little deck and then an enclosure on the front. The enclosure on the floor never happened. The deck got constructed, but then in addition to the decks, the patios were constructed, and it was only found after they were on the ground. With that plan, all of this mitigation was required for the after-the-fact filing. This mitigation accounted for over 1,000 square feet of area, and as such, an additional tree was required as part of the mitigation, which was proposed here. The applicant realized how much of the yard they would be giving up for this mitigation, and they feel that it is best to remove the deck that was, the patio that was built without permits at this location, and a portion at this location. And that's how we end up with this amendment request. In overall, we're reducing the approved after the fact hardscape areas from approximately 344 square feet a year and a half ago to 145 square feet now. So it's a reduction of 200 square feet. And now the required mitigation planting is reduced to 435 square feet, which is what we're proposing at this location. If we look at some couple of pictures that were included in the application, this is one of the patios that was installed without a permit. That's being removed. This portion of the patio is going to be removed, and then these portions of the patio are going to be removed. They're still keeping some of the after the fact construction, like patio in this area, and this kind of, it looks like a fire pit, but it's not. What we have in this location is the ejector pump that was installed some 5 years ago for connecting to town sewer, and that little wall, that sitting wall, was constructed around the cover of that patio, around that E1 ejector pump. So that's the project in a sense. So it's a reduction of what was approved for the after the fact installation and a reduction in the mitigation plantings. With that, I'll stop sharing and take any questions.
Thanks, Raul. Jen?
We're only just concerned. Am I muted again? No, I'm not. I'm sorry. Apologize. We're just concerned with some of the landscape mitigation hasn't been installed yet, Raul.
That's correct.
Why? Guess.
Yeah.
I know it's not you. Okay. So we'll probably put a date certain on those mitigation requirements.
Good.
Okay, we'll do that. And then I think Lisa just wanted you to show a tree, and if I missed that in your presentation, I apologize. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Alyssa?
Nothing to add. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner comments or questions? I'll start because I want to. No, I just agree with the date certain on the mitigation. I said it earlier tonight. It's just fascinating how people will move forward with pieces and not even.
Yeah.
I mean, at least if they planted this, it'd be a positive direction. But what do I know? All right, Kevin.
Other than to second your comments, no other comments.
All right, Ron.
I'm all set, thank you.
Russ.
I'm all set, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Betsy.
No comments.
Courtney.
The retaining wall that we saw in that picture that sort of as it curves around, was that permitted at any point?
So yeah, to address some of the earlier questions, the mitigation tree that was proposed a year and a half ago was such because the mitigation planting was over 1,000 square feet. Now that we have less than 1,000, the mitigation tree is not a requirement by regulations. The wall that is existing was part of the after the fact construction a year and a half ago. There was a smaller wall. They did extended it after the fact, but the extension is being counted towards the mitigation requirements.
So you are specifically asking approval to keep that wall. Am I clear?
Right. The wall stays because the change in grades is still there.
All right, that's all I wanted to know. Thank you.
So there's a violation of the violation.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Oh,
All right.
We should have some extra mitigation for all of that.
and now
Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Nothing in the public chat, Mr. Chairman.
What do you think?
I'll make a motion. Make a motion, close the hearing, take it under advisement.
Third, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to close the hearing. Last call. Questions or comments? All right, we're voting to close the hearing. Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney.
Third, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin.
O'Brien, aye.
Ron.
Driscoll, aye.
Russ.
Robbins, aye.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Raul.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Night, Raul.
Let's see. Next up, Ciari Hubru, trustee, Hubru Trust, 110 Ransom Road, Falmouth, Mass. Request to amend the order of conditions for Mass DEP number 25-4942 to increase the design flow of the previously approved sewage disposal system. Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I've promoted Mark Dibb up from Cape and Islands Engineering to present his project. We have the whole crew from Cape and Islands here tonight.
Mr. Dibb, you're up, sir.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Again, Mark Dibb, civil engineer with Cape and Islands Engineering. We submitted a request to amend the existing order of conditions at 110 Ransom Road. With your permission, I'd like to share my screen.
Yes, sir.
So this project was previously before you. Through the design process, our initial submittal had a pretty significantly changed building. This general footprint was then approved with a 3-bedroom septic design. The applicant, after conservation approval, did go to the Board of Health for a variance for an IA system to be included, a nitro IA system, which is the best available nitrogen reducing IA technology, and was granted a variance based on the nitrogen loading calculations, primarily based on the nitrogen loading calculations, with a determination that the site is better served by this nitrogen reducing system for a 4-bedroom house than a standard Title V system for 3-bedroom house. In the last few months, as the applicant was preparing his construction documents, there was also some minor footprint changes. The footprint of the house in this area was actually reduced, as well as some other reductions in footprint of the house, for a total footprint reduction of 248 square feet. There was also a walkway here made of paver material that acts as a deck on the back as well. This walkway accesses a door in this area. Those walkways came out to 248 square feet as well. So footprint has been reduced. However, impervious coverage essentially remains the same because of those 2 walkways. Basically, those are the 3 changes to the project that we have submitted this amended request for. I'm going to stop sharing and be happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Mark. Jen? Jen?
You're
Not muted, but now you're muted. No, you're not.
You guys hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. I have no comments or questions. Thank you.
All right. Alyssa?
No comments. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner comments. I don't know where we left off, so we're going to start at the top. Betsy?
No comments.
All right. Courtney?
On the walkways that you've eliminated, are there still egress off of the house at those points?
The walkways are actually added to get to egress. There was portions of the house that were reduced, but we did not have walkways in these areas on the previously approved. But again, overall, the net change is 0 square feet of impervious area.
Okay. Yeah, it just wasn't clear from your presentation. I have no other questions.
All right. Mark, was there a nitro system proposed when it was 3-bedroom?
No, there was not, and it was also not required at the time.
You went with a nitro so that you could get more capacity to make it a 4-bedroom.
Correct.
Okay. Kevin?
No comments, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
All right. Ron?
No comments, Mr. Chairman. All set.
Russ?
No comments.
All right. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Nothing in the public chat, Mr. Chairman.
All right. What are you thinking, folks?
A motion to close the hearing, taken under advisement. Ron?
Just a second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to close the hearing. Last call. Questions or comments? We're voting to close the hearing. Betsy?
Glatfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Ron?
Driscoll, aye.
Russ?
Robbins, aye.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Mr. Dibb.
Thank you, everybody.
Done?
All right, next up. Sorry if I get this wrong. Stefanos and Despina Bubelis, 43 Miami Avenue, Falmouth, Mass. Request to amend the order of conditions for Mass DEP number 25-4951 to permit a deck expansion and installation of 2 AC pads after the fact. Remove the shed and walkway, remove and replace a tree, and adjust the mitigation area. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have promoted Chuck Rowland from Cape and Islands. Cape and Islands show tonight.
That's it. Good evening, Chuck Rowland, Cape and Islands Engineering. I'm a professional civil engineer representing the owners of 43 Miami Avenue. The vast majority of this project was previously approved, and this amended order came about through the inspection of a COC request, and the staff actually picked up on the fact that the deck was built about a foot larger than what was previously approved, and that is why we're here. So with that, I'm going to ask that I can share my screen.
Yes, sir.
Let me know when that pops up.
You're in.
So we have in front of you tonight the slightly larger deck that is shaded a slightly darker. And so with the deck, it's about 27 square feet larger than what was previously approved of hardscape. Some of the deck is over the existing concrete step and patio, which previously existing, and they kept it, so that was not changed at all. There was mitigation that was previously approved, about 85 square feet. Now we have proposed 187 square feet of mitigation in this area. We have, which abuts the vegetation abutting the bank or the existing wall and the salt marsh. And kind of our way to try to trade to keep this deck is by removing the existing shed, as shown here on the bottom of the screen, as well as the concrete walkway. So 101 square foot shed, the walkway, which is 27 square feet, and so we'll be removing 129 square feet of hardscape, which at its closest is 1.3 feet from a coastal bank on the south side of the property, where the existing deck is 28 feet away from the closest resource. So we'll be adding this area to the native planting. So your native planting is now at 316 square feet of native planting that we'll be putting in this area. So with that, we'll be having a larger buffer to the wetland to better filter any nitrogen or anything else that comes from storm runoff. The project did implement stormwater catch basins that connect to the roof. We believe that the deck is a fairly non-measurable impact on the resource, and we believe that we're giving back a lot more than what would be typically traded in mitigation for structure of that size. We know that this is not a typical ask. My client, they did the work on the house, they hired subs, they don't know really what happened between the previous deck and it being rebuilt. But we believe that with the mitigation, that this is an improvement to the site over current conditions with the removal of the shed and all the extra mitigation planting. Some of the staff comments came back that they wanted to change some of the native planting, and we can work with the staff on that to implement salt tolerant plants So we're happy to work on that. We've also proposed hazardous tree to be removed, and we'll be putting a 3-inch BDH red maple in the front yard that's further away from the house. So with that, I'm happy to take any comments. If you'd like me to stop sharing, I will.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I mean, it is moving closer. Your regulations are pretty clear. You did make a ruling a week or so ago on a property in North Falmouth where you made them cut the stairs and the deck back. So I'm just reminding you of that. Chuck, they're not doing real well with their mitigation plantings they're supposed to have. They're all dead. They're removed. There's grasses. They're not really taking good care of the mitigation they should have. So I'm not too hopeful that even more plants will do well because they're just not caring about the mitigation now. But you didn't build the deck, so it's you. And those are all the comments I have, Mr. Chairman. Again, your regulations are clear, and currently the mitigation it needs to be enhanced anyway for the previous project, and not only for this amendment. That's all I have.
All right. Alyssa.
Just to add on to Jen's comment, the existing buffer on the site too is also being cut. There were no permits to disturb that either. And I say cut, I mean hacked. It's not looking good back there. So I would recommend the commission require that at least the existing buffer is supplemented. At this point, I don't even know what it is. I don't remember. They're just sticks. So putting a little bit extra in there, I think will help enhance it. It might be worth having a special condition too that the buffer is allowed to regrow prior to compliance being approved.
Granted.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. All right, Commissioner comments. Courtney.
Can you put the picture up again, your map or your
My plan?
yeah, plan, yeah.
Sure.
Please.
Okay, so it has concrete step and patio. Was that existing prior to this renovation?
Yes.
So so there is an argument, which I didn't hear you make too loudly, that this additional add-on to your patio, which is while moving closer, is not moving closer if you include the concrete step and patio. I mean, it's not in itself, right? I mean, what's your argument there?
So these concrete steps down below are to access the basement, and then there are existing stepping stones that go around the building.
Right.
And if you're saying,
so
we're not any closer than previously developed areas. That is hardscape.
So the question would be, is that concrete step and patio part of the existing dwelling prior to all of this renovation, or?
Yes.
Not? Yeah. I realize that only a foot is only a foot, but as Jen pointed out, last week we asked whoever it was that only did a foot to remove it. So, there was a plan. We approved it, right? So whoever was doing his deck didn't follow the plan.
It's hard for me to argue that.
Now we're being asked to approve his mistake. What would you do in our shoes?
I think that you have to look at the project holistically. I think that,
That's a great term, holistic. Thank you.
Well,
that's a new one.
As a whole, I think that, people should be reprimanded for projects that they do not follow per the plan. With that being said, I truly believe that this is not an egregious mistake. I understand that it is a mistake and they did make it slightly bigger, but I also don't think it's deplorable by any means compared to some of the projects I've seen come across.
what
And
do
then I
we
think
do?
that with the removal of the shed and the added mitigation planting, I think it's a net benefit to the environment, and this commission's goals. So
why didn't you come and sell that to us before you built the deck?
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, you know what I'm saying? I want you to be in my shoes for a minute. And last week, we blew up an applicant because he made his deck and his stairs go exactly 1 foot closer to a resource area. So now if we allow this, what is that owner gonna, think about the Conservation Commission? And how quickly is he gonna hire a lawyer to say that we're being capricious?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not a lawyer and I only look at projects, one step at a time.
What I'm saying is, personally, I have difficulty with that at 1 foot. I have no other questions.
Thank you. All right. So, Jan, you guys have an opinion on that step? Was that pre-existing? Was that part of present primary structure?
We'd have to look into that, Mr. Chairman. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head. I do believe it was there, but whether or not it's part of the present primary structure, I'd have to go back and really look at it, to be honest with you.
Okay. Because I mean, that would be an argument to make, but otherwise, it's really not approvable. I mean, based on what we've recently experienced and the precedent we would set. I agree with what you're saying, Chuck, about, and you always hear me say it is, we got to look at each project on its own. However, we can't set the tone for every project because of one. So that's a tough one for us. Kevin.
I agree with the previous comment.
All right. Jen?
Just to weigh in on that, it would have probably been helpful to the applicant if they had actually taken care of their mitigation plantings they were supposed to put in. Just saying.
Yeah. All right.
Holistically.
Don't shoot the messenger.
I know, Chuck, I know. You just asked us to look at it holistically, and now we are. And it's not good.
I don't know how we get the message across to people that of what you already have or put in what you've already agreed to put in, and then it makes it easier for us to play along with something that you want after the fact. I mean, I don't get it, Anyway, I'm getting off my soapbox. Ron.
I'm all set, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Russ.
Everything said that I would say so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Betsy.
I'm going to say something more.
Excellent.
I think it's a really bad precedent to say, yeah, you can do that extra foot, but we'll give you the shed. We're going to have projects come in that have sheds and other stuff, and they say, well, we're going to take them down, but we just want to move 2 feet or 6 feet or 8 feet closer. It's not a good precedent. And Chuck, I think at some point you ought to get on a regulatory board because it gives you a very different appreciation. I mean, you have a job to play and you're playing it well. You're doing your job well. But Courtney's saying, what would you say? Well, you're not on a regulatory board. The weight of the decision is not on you.
It is not.
But get on one sometime. You find you have a very different perspective.
Yes, ma'am.
Good answer. All right. And is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Nothing in the public chat, Mr. Chairman. Chuck, can you stop sharing? I'm sorry.
No.
I'll make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to close the hearing. Last call. Questions or comments? We're voting to close the hearing. Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney.
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin.
O'Brien, aye.
Ron,
Driscoll, aye.
Russ? Russ, did I miss you?
You're muted, Russ.
Or just give me a thumbs up. Thank you. I don't want to exclude you. All right. It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you,
Thank you for your
Chuck.
time.
Am I back on again?
There
Yes,
you go,
you are.
Rod. Okay.
All right. Next up, continued request to amend an existing order of conditions. First one is, the only one has been previously continued. Brings us to request for a hearing for a certificate of compliance. Sharon Billingsley, 103 Bowens Pond Road, Falmouth, Mass. Request for a certificate of compliance for Mass DEP number 25-345. That number right? That's an old number. Or a typo.
No, it's old.
It's old.
1990s.
Wow.
It's an old
80s.
project.
It's from the
Wow.
about 40 years old.
Yeah.
82.
Oh, so I remember it then. All right. Jen.
We're withdrawing the request for the certificate of compliance. We were working with council and the property owners council, and we were instructed by our council to issue the COC. It had to do with recording on a lot, and then the lot was subdivided, and it had a lot of legal implications. So the lawyers worked it out. We issued it. It's withdrawn.
Good.
Excellent.
That's all I needed to hear. Thank you. Lawyers and work something. Wow. All right.
Careful, careful.
Careful.
Yeah.
Careful. We will work
Whatever.
out sometimes.
That's all right. Next up, continued hearings under an enforcement order. Oh, this one looks familiar. Jane Sahagian, 21 Davis Neck Road, Falmouth, Mass. Unpermitted vegetation removal, installation of a patio, and construction of a staircase within conservation jurisdiction. Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. This is the property out on Davis Neck. We had the patio issue, we had the stair issue off the deck, and we still have the issue of the buffer that has been removed. Mr. Sahajian did remove his stairs without a permit. He did remove his brick patio. And he has yet to install his buffer mitigations. He is still fighting us with that. We did send him the agenda. We did remind him of this meeting tonight, and he is not with us.
And
so
now,
at this point,
I'm sorry.
I mean, at this point, I would just say the board should just vote an enforcement order to have him restore the buffer that was removed.
And the buffer was from an order of conditions issued when?
It was
The
already
buffer.
It was already there.
I can address that. There was an old order that he was referencing throughout this process. I think the reason he is back then the vegetation line was not drawn. There was really no mention to buffer or buffer zone because I don't think those regs really existed yet. So I think there was a point of confusion. The main section of buffer that we are referring to is adjacent to the property to the south, as well as, I believe, where some of the patio was installed. A survey will help us determine where we will need plantings to be reinstalled.
Which he isn't inclined to do.
That's why we have to vote the enforcement order, Mr. Chairman.
That's fine. I mean, me personally, I think we've beat this to death, so we just need to move forward one way or another. So
I'll make a motion to issue an enforcement order.
Driscoll second.
With the requirement of a survey, please.
Yeah, well, we need to know where the resource lines are.
Yep.
Do you have
yeah,
a
that
date certain?
solve a host of problems. So
we need a date certain as to when this is to be
Yeah, we'll come up with it. We'll probably give him a 60-day date certain. That gives him some breathing room with the surveyors.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we have a motion and a second on the table to issue an enforcement order. Any other input? All right, we're voting to issue an enforcement order. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Ron,
Driscoll, aye.
Russ.
Robbins, aye.
It is unanimous. We have issued an enforcement order. Thank you for that. Next up, the next two have been previously continued. That brings us to vote orders of conditions. For the record, Russ, you're not on either one of these, so you can take off if you want, or you could bless us with your presence a little longer. Your call, no pressure. First up, Dennis and Adrian Ocon, 21 Fairview Lane, Falmouth, Mass.
Yes, this is a proposed house, a raise and rebuild, moving the house significantly further back from the resource areas. Quite a bit of mitigation and trees. I don't remember if we had just full in sight there, and there are vessels being stored in the salt marsh we need to get rid of. The existing buffer is being cut, so we'll put a condition in on that. And I think that's it. Alyssa, did I miss anything?
We did get a revised plan addressing our comments, so I think that part is all set.
Excellent. All right,
This is the
anything
one
else
with,
anybody want to see? I'm sorry?
I'm sorry, this is the one with Lee Studios? Tom Lee? Yeah, okay.
Yes. All right, anything else anybody want to see in there? All right, what are you thinking?
I'll make a motion to issue an order of conditions as discussed.
Second, Gladfelter.
All right, we have a motion and a second to issue an order of conditions. Last call. All right, we're voting. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Ron.
Driscoll, aye.
It is unanimous. With this quorum, we have issued an order of conditions. Next up, 457 Wild Harbor Road Realty Trust. 457 Wild Harbor Road, Falmouth, Mass.
Yes, this is again another raise and rebuild. Only a small portion of the actual projects in our jurisdiction. I believe it's a portion of the patio, some mitigation, and maybe a portion of, I think there's a pool.
There's a pool.
Yes.
Yeah, that yeah. They did submit a revised plan. I think we're still so they had their no mow area along the path going down to the water. We had asked that to be filled in a little bit with shrubs. And I think that we still need it filled in with a little bit more shrubs, even with the revised plan. So we'll have to add additional shrubs, and we'll look into that and put the appropriate amount.
Perfect.
Okay.
All right. Anything anybody want to see in there? All right. What are you thinking?
Motion to issue an order of conditions as discussed.
Bird second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to issue an order of conditions. Last call. We're voting. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Ron.
Driscoll, aye.
It is unanimous. With this quorum, we have issued an order of conditions. And just a reminder, we have no meeting next week. You're off the hook. And we don't even have a regulatory meeting. So you're like totally off the hook next week. So how about that? All right, last call. Who wants it?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Driscoll, second.
Gladfelter, aye.
Bird eye.
Aye.
Robbins, aye.
Driscoll, aye.
Oh, O'Brien, aye. Aye. Whatever.
We're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.